Hello, good afternoon. My name's Ed Charlwood. Joe's asked me to make a brief introductory video for you regarding Tinkercad. This is really an absolute basics. If you have kind of used CAD before, you've got a bit more of an understanding of what CAD is, then you might want to skip to the second video. For starters, I just want to talk you through what CAD is. CAD stands for Computer Aided Design. It's simply just using computers to help you design things. So like you might use PowerPoint to design a presentation, this form of CAD we're going to do helps us design parts and products, but also electronic parts as well. In the Key Stage 3 national curriculum and the Key Stage 2 national curriculum, Tinkercad is going to help you really cover lots of these areas, particularly developing and communicating design ideas, using, amongst other things, 3D and mathematical modeling and computer-based tools. This is going to fit really nicely when you're trying to do some of those things. But not only that, I think it's a really convincing tool to allow you to have a kind of really creative outlet. And much like some of the other coding tools and gamified tools, it really is open-ended, and you'll be really surprised with how your students get on with it. We're going to be using a program called Tinkercad, which is from a company called Autodesk, and it's entirely free for you to use. I'm going to suggest in the first instance that you sign in and try it yourselves before we get into the complexities of getting it to work for your students. For your students who are under 13, you will need to set them up an account, and it's not a difficult thing to do. We'll address that a little bit later on. All you need to do is go to tinkercad.com, click on sign up, and once you've signed up, you can go to Educators Start Here. If you've got a single sign-on, you can sign on with your single sign-on. This is me, edcharlwood@gmail.com. And this is the screen you're faced with. Your student's screen will be slightly different. This gives us an overview. And I'm just going to jump in and show you 2 or 3 different features of what you can do in Tinkercad. And we're going to look at 3D shapes. We're going to look at doing some electronics. We're going to look at how we can learn how to use it and also find some projects. So I'm going to start off and dive right in. I'm going to click on designs and I'm going to start a new design. And I'm going to start by designing a 3D circuit. 3D part. Your screen will open up like this. And depending on how you're using this, the navigation is slightly different. So I'm currently right-clicking my mouse to navigate around the work plane. I can scroll in and scroll out using the scroller, and I can pan left and right by holding down the scroller. I can also see up in the top left-hand corner here, I've got what's called the view cube. You can see the view cube mirrors what I'm doing with my mouse. And that's a really good way of exploring moving from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions and thinking about different views. Those of your students who play things like Minecraft will be really adept at this. But others who haven't might find it a little bit trickier. The way we design things in Tinkercad is to drag things out for these shapes they call the primitive shapes. And we design by resizing them and combining them together. So for example, I'm just going to take the simple box and drag it onto the work plane. When the box is on there, a couple of things pop up. So first of all, I've got some white cubes, and I can just click and move those white cubes to make my cube bigger and smaller. I can drag them left and right and up and down. Or I can type dimensions into them. So if I want it to be an exact size, I can type them in. This is a really good way of maybe thinking about volumes in maths. A really nice way of exploring those and seeing what happens if you were to double up. So now I'm just going to use a keyboard shortcut of Control and C, Control V, just to duplicate them. It's a really quick way just to start to recreate our shapes and again move them around. Now you'll notice when I'm designing, I can intersect these blocks together so I can cross them over each other. So unlike other CAD programs, I can just move things around to get them wherever I want them. And the more shapes I pull in, the more I can just put them wherever I want them to be. So in that respect, I can create shapes really, really quickly. The other thing I can do with my shapes, I can change what they are. So at the moment, it's a solid shape, but I can also change it to be a hole. And that will then be the inverse. And what will happen now, if I select all my shapes by drawing a lasso around them, and going up to this tool here, which is called Group, when I group them together, it will take away that shape from those two. You can see how I've done some removal. So a little bit of maths again, a bit of subtraction in terms of my shapes, taking one thing away from the other. And I can go back and undo those if I want to and play around with that formatting. Down the side, we've got a whole different palette of shapes. You can choose whatever you want. You can also search for other shapes, search things you might want, like a wheel. You'll find in here all the different designs that already exist if you wanted to build something like a chariot or a cart. I'd really encourage you to go and play, have a look around, see how you get on with it, but playing in here is a really, really good thing to do. The second thing I want to show you in Tinkercad is what's called Tinkercad circuits. So same approach again, I'm going to say new, I'm going to say circuit. In the Tinkercad circuit, you'll see the screen looks kind of the same, but instead of being a 3-dimensional workspace, we're a 2-dimensional workspace. And what I can do in here is just drop different parts in. So a resistor, an LED, push button, and a battery. And then I can see what happens when I wire them all up. So in this case, I'm going to wire up my circuit, see what happens. What's really nice in here is I can simulate my circuit. So when I press the button, you can see the LED turns on. When I change the value of the resistor from 1000 ohms to say 20 ohms, you will see the LED is brighter, but I'm also getting a warning message, so the resistance isn't high enough. It's a really nice way to explore circuits. I'm going to delete all these parts quickly. It's also a really nice way, if you get onto it, exploring microbits. I can go in here and use microbits and code my microbit in here as well if I want to, and simulate my microbit working as well. One more thing I wanted to show you was the gallery of objects. It might be that you're doing something in particular in one of your lessons and you wanted to have a play around with finding something that was right for you. In this case, I'm going to use a skittle alley. There's already a whole series of designs that have been made. And what's really nice with your skittle alley is you can use this tool, which is the apple falling. It puts you into what's called the Sim Lab. This has only been released a few days ago. When I go into the Sim Lab, it will add physics and forces and simulation into my what I can do is throw things at my skittles, see if I can make them fall over. And you can see my skittles falling off. So it's a really fun way to explore and experiment, and loads of new examples are coming out. The last thing I wanted to show you is something that's built into Tinkercad, and it's really fantastic, is the resource center. And in here, it's got a really nice set of things, lesson plans, tricks and tips, but the learning center for me is fantastic. It's a really nice way to set students' work and get them going. You'll be really surprised with who picks it up and who doesn't and who struggles a little bit. And because you've got this resource center, it will take you through and allow them to learn at their own speed. The instructions look like this, and they go through and they've got a really nice graphical explanation of what's going on. You're going to see you get an instruction panel down the side with some questions of what to do, and what you have to do is literally follow along. And once you've followed along and done what it's asked, oh, I was jumping around, done what it's asked, okay, you click on this step for next, and it's going to give you a nice little explosion and tell you you've done it properly, and then it will take you to the next one. Okay, so you'll be able to self-pace and take your way through resource by resource, tutorial by tutorial. In the second video I'm going to share with Joe, we're going to look at how we can set yourself up as a class, look at a few more of the learning pathways that you could use, look at how if you're using an iPad you can get an augmented reality view. But hopefully this is just giving you a lot of flavour of what you can do with Tinkercad. Not only is it a really good creative tool, but it's also going to allow you to meet some of those national curriculum requirements. I'll share my details with Joe in case any of you got any questions or want a bit of help getting started. But I hope you enjoy using Tinkercad.